So welcome back to another video on the Manta restoration project. So today we're going to start off with pulling this engine out. We're going to be disconnecting everything: alternator, starter motor, fuel lines, brake pipes, clutch cable, throttle cable, all that sort of stuff's going to be coming off. And then what we're going to do is we're going to release the shockers, cross member bolts, and it also bolts on down here onto the chassis swan necks. Drop the anti-roll bar off it, and then we'll drop the whole front axle with the engine and everything attached to it. We're going to lift the body of the car up and pull the engine out. To do that, we're probably going to have to turn the car around and put it in backwards, so we've got a bit more room, and then we can wheel this whole lump straight out the front. That'll give us better access into the inner wings and everything that we're going to be doing, because we're going to be putting full new inner wings in this car. So we need to be getting into all this seam to unpick all these spot welds and get the new inner wing prepped up, ready to go on. So that's where we're going to start. I'm going to get this engine out. Let's do it. So my first step is to remove the alternator. This is easily done by releasing the top bolt, let the slack off to remove the belt. After that, I'm going to do the bottom bolt, which will then release the alternator. We're moving this out of the way just to gain access to the starter motor wiring, as it's quite difficult to get to on these cars. It's underneath the inlet manifold. After that, I need to release the fuel pipe. To do that, I need to release the Jubilee clip, pull the fuel pipe off, and then I just kink it over using a cable tie just to prevent any fuel leaking out. Whilst we're doing this, there is still fuel in the tank at this point. We will be draining the tank at a later date. This just secures it for now, gets it out of the way and keeps it safe. Now I'm removing the brake vacuum pipe between the servo and the inlet manifold. This is secured just using one 19mm bolt. It's easy enough to remove. This just gets it out of the way, prevents it from getting caught up on the engine while we're removing it. Next, we remove the wiring from the coil, which is simple enough. Everything just unplugs, nothing to unbolt here. Then the king lead, again, just pulls off. Now we move on to the underside of the car, where you'll see me here releasing the speedo cable, which just unscrews. Then we move on up to the reverse light switch, which is just two plugs and spade connectors, which again just simply unclip. Now I'm undoing the clutch cable, which again is a simple process. Just held on with a 10mm lock nut and then a 12mm adjuster nut. Next we need to release the prop shaft, which is just secured with a couple of 13mm nuts, and there is some locking tabs to release before you can undo the nuts. A couple of the locking tabs was actually missing on this particular car, so it came off quite easily, and then it simply just pushes forward on a spring and releases. Next we move on to the exhaust. We do that by releasing the exhaust clamp. Bolts actually snapped on this one. It was very rusty, but we don't need this clamp, so it's just now in the bin. We won't be reusing that. Now we remove the rest of the HT leads, and we release the dizzy cap just to get it out of the way to give us access to the exhaust manifold bolts. Then it's onto the exhaust manifold bolts themselves. Again, a couple of these had snapped, so there wasn't many holding this manifold on. Once them are now removed, we can then release the manifold from the engine block and then pull it up and out from underneath the car. Next step is to remove the gear knob, which simply screws off. Then we release the gaiters, which just again pop off nice and easily. Then we need to push the car out, drain the coolant into a bucket, and then we can turn the car around and push it back in the workshop so we can get access to the front of the engine with the engine crane. So with the coolant drained, we can now release the fan cowling, pull the radiator up and out of the way for better access. Okay, so with everything released, coolant's drained, radiator out and everything disconnected, we can now turn the vehicle around, push it in the workshop backwards to allow us to get room to get the engine crane in the front of the vehicle, ready to strap it up. So in comes the engine crane. We're now using a nice big heavy duty strap, and we've got a couple of lashing points on the engine, one at the front, one at the back. This should balance it out pretty nicely. We'll get a feel for it, give the engine a little lift, take the weight. Once we've done that, we then go underneath the vehicle, back down the pit to release the 2 gearbox bolts, and then the engine can be guided out nice and steadily. With the engine now out of the way, we can start to release some of this stuff from the bulkhead, which is the heater box and the connecting pipework and the cables which control the heaters. We was not expecting to find what we found hiding behind this heater box once we released it, which you're about to see shortly.
Wow. That's bad. Ooh. Oh, can I put it back in?
No. Well, you can.
That is foo bad. Let's get round after these.
So the next step is to remove the clutch cable, then the accelerator cable. With those out of the way, we can then disconnect the wiper mechanism and the motor linkage. Get that out of the way, then we can move into the brake master cylinder by releasing the brake pipes and also separating the master cylinder away from the brake servo. Once the master cylinder and the servo separated, we can then get back inside the car, release the bolts that hold the servo to the bulkhead and the fixing bolt to the pedal.
Whoa.
Not a lot of strength left in that, is there?
Like well crusty.
Okay, so that's the engine out and the gearbox. Had a little bit of a struggle. We found that the gear stick was actually bottoming out in the gearbox tunnel, so it was a little bit tight coming out. That is an aftermarket gear stick. It's got some sort of a quick shift on there. But we got it out, so that's out, that's on the floor. That is not going back in. We're going to be putting a 2.4 in here. We're going to be doing a build on that, speccing it up a little bit, getting a bit more power out of that 2.4 as well, putting throttle bodies on it, management and stuff. We stripped the bulkhead, got all the heater box out, the wiper linkages off, some of this rubber matting off, brake master cylinder and servo off, brake pipes disconnected. And I'll show you now, I'll give you a little walk around at some of the rust we've come across. Now we've stripped it, it is pretty bad. You can see down there we've got quite a big hole going on down there in the seams. There's another hole down in there and I've just put my finger through. Nice. And then this is what was hiding behind the heater box. All that nasty stuff. I've never actually seen one rot there. That's a new one on me, and I've restored a lot of these cars, and my brother as well. Battery tray completely shot. That's going to want a new battery tray putting in there. And then into the floors, we've got some big holes going on down in the floors as well, and over on the driver's side. Yeah, not good at all. So it's going to be having some sections put in there. So that is going to be it for this one. Done as much as we can today. This is the end of episode 2. We'll leave this one here. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, drop us some comments, let us know what you think of this build so far. Give us a share, and we'll see you on the next video.